first meeting of the program management Tuesday, May 2nd, 2023. I got a roll call.
Yep, the record will note that all trustees are present with trustees Fair and Evans online.
Approval of committee minutes
So moved.
of the April 4th, 2023 meeting.
So moved.
Second.
There are no comments by the chair. Engineering department agenda item.
Good morning, trustees. Several items this morning. First two items are CSO Green Infrastructure Grant requests. The first one is from Frable Literacy Academy Green Schoolyard. This ordinance will authorize the district to enter an agreement with St. Louis Public School District to provide financial assistance through the Green Infrastructure Grant Program for the construction of green infrastructure. The purpose of this project is to reduce combined sewer overflows to the Mississippi River per the long-term control plan and the consent decree. This project will reduce runoff volume with the installation of 6 bioretention basins and native plant educational gardens at the schoolyard. The total cost of this project is estimated at $1,246,053. St. Louis Public School District is requesting approximately $650,000 reimbursement for the cost of green infrastructure. In your packet, you'll find a sketch showing the location. It's just north of Chippewa and just east of Pennsylvania Avenue. You can see the school building there and the rain gardens and bioretentions they're planning on building at the schoolyard. Any questions? All right. Next item is a green infrastructure grant from Alumnus Gardens. This ordinance authorizes the district to enter into agreement with Alumnus Gardens LLC to provide financial assistance through the Green Infrastructure Grant Program. Again, the purpose is to reduce combined sewer overflows to the Mississippi River. Project will reduce runoff with the installation of 1 bioretention basin and additional permeable pavement on the property. The total cost of the project is estimated at $278,330, and Alumnus Gardens LLC is requesting $275,400 reimbursement for the cost of green infrastructure. Again, you have in your packet, you have a sketch showing the location. It's in North St. Louis, just north of St. Louis Avenue and North Newstead.
Excuse me.
You can see at least 5 areas of permeable pavement where the parking is, and then a bioretention basin in the southeast corner. All right. Next item, Roxborough Drive Sanitary Relief. This action appropriates funds and authorizes staff to enter a construction contract. The work to be done consists of construction of approximately 520 lineal feet of sewers, 21-inch to 24-inch in diameter. The purpose of this project is to alleviate overcharged sanitary sewers and reduce building backups. The project will provide for the elimination of 1 constructed sanitary sewer overflow. The district received 2 bids on this project. The low bid was from Pace Construction Company. The bid was below our designer's estimate, and our appropriation of $470,000 is above the original budget, and included in that appropriation is $72,000 for utility relocation. Pace is committed to 17.04% MBE participation on the project, and that meets the district's 17% goal for minority African American participation. Next item is the Bissell Point Wastewater Treatment Facility fine screens, concrete, and gate improvement project. This action appropriates funds and authorizes staff to enter into a construction contract. The work to be done consists of construction of a new building and ancillary support systems to house 5 multi-rake bar screens, 10 slide gates for isolating the screen channels, 2 washer compactors, 8 slide gates at the gate building, the replacement of 20 existing gates at the pre-aeration basins, and miscellaneous concrete repair at the locations of each gate replacement. The purpose of this project is to improve preliminary treatment by replacing the aging comminutors with more modern screening equipment. The district received 3 bids on this project. The low bid was from Tarleton Corporation. The bid was below our designer's estimate, and our appropriation of $8 million in this fiscal year today, fiscal year 23, an additional $8.5 million in fiscal year 24 is below our original budget of $34.7 million. Tarleton is committed to 21.83% minority participation. This particular project is funded through state revolving fund. So it has a 10% minority goal and a 10% women goal. Tarleton has meet that with an overall goal of 21.83% participation. Next project is the Black Creek Haddington Court. This action appropriates funds and authorizes staff to enter a construction contract. The work to be done consists of construction approximately 7,900 feet of 8 to 42-inch diameter sewers and appurtenances. The purpose of this project is to alleviate overcharged sanitary sewers and reduce building backups. This project will provide for the elimination of 3 constructed sanitary sewer overflows. The district received 5 bids on this project. The low bid was from Bates Utility Company Incorporated. The bid was below our design estimate. Our appropriation of $13 million in fiscal year 23 and $6 million in fiscal year 24 is below the original 2-year budget of $26.1 million. Bates Utility is committed to 17.07% minority African American participation, which meets the goal for the project. Next item is infrastructure repairs rehabilitation contract C. This action appropriates funds and authorizes staff to enter a construction contract. The work to be done consists of the rehabilitation of approximately 18,884 feet of outfall sewers to the Mississippi River, varying in size from 48-inch wide and 60-inch tall egg to 96-inch wide by 120-inch tall arch, utilizing geopolymer lining method. The purpose of this project is the rehabilitation of 5 Mississippi River outfalls from Bremen, Barton, Ferry, Trudeau, and Chambers. The sewers identified for rehabilitation are identified through the annual CMOM inspection program required by the consent decree. I will say the advantage of the low rivers this past year have really given us an opportunity to take a look at those outfalls and find out our rehabilitation needs. The district received 2 bids on this project. The low bid was from SAK Construction. The bid was below our designer's estimate, and our appropriation of $2,250,000 is below the planned budget for the project. SAK is committed to just under 18% MBE African American participation, which meets our 17% goal on the project. Next project is a Salesville sanitary relief. This action appropriates funds and authorizes staff to enter into construction contract. The work to be done consists of the construction of approximately 3,900 feet of 8 to 24-inch diameter sanitary sewers and appurtenances and 690 lineal feet of natural stream bank stabilization. The purpose of this project is to reduce building backups and relieve overcharged sanitary sewers and to protect residential properties from stream bank erosion. The district received 5 bids on this project. The low bid was from Understall Contracting. The bid was slightly above our estimate, and our appropriation of $3.9 million, which includes $450,000 for utility relocation and contingencies, is above the original planned budget. Understall is committed to just over 17% African American participation, which meets our goal of 17%. This project actually has split funding. $3.8 million will come from the sanitary replacement fund, and $100,000 will come from the district-wide stormwater fund for the erosion, stream bank erosion being addressed on the project. Next item is the price to Pioneer Sanitary Relief. This action appropriates additional funds to an ongoing construction projects to Bates Utility Company. This was a planned appropriation for fiscal year 24. The work to be done consists of construction of approximately 5,700 linear feet of sewers, 8 to 30 inch in diameter. The purpose of the project is to reduce building backups and relieve overcharged sanitary sewers. This, again, is a partial funding request and an appropriation of $2.2 million, which will be the final appropriation, bring the total appropriation of $6.2 million and fully fund the construction for the project. Next item, MC02 Watson and Edgar Road sanitary relief. This project too appropriates additional funds to an ongoing construction project with Fred M. Luth and Sons. This is also a planned appropriation for fiscal year 23. The work being done consists of construction of approximately 5,000 linear feet of sanitary sewers, 8 to 36 inch diameter. The purpose of this project is to reduce building backups and relieve overcharged sanitary sewers. At the completion, the project will provide for the elimination of one constructed overflow. This partial funding request of $5.8 billion will bring the total amount for the appropriation to $11,800,000 and will fully fund the construction for this project. Next item is a design. The next two items are design contract, or next three items are design contracts. First one, general services agreement for construction management. This action appropriates additional funds and authorizes staff to amend a contract with KAI 360. This is a planned planned funding request for various services for construction management, include testing of materials, inspection of electrical, mechanical work at MSD's various treatment plants and various pumping stations. The projects are located throughout the districts in St. Louis County. The amendment to this contract is for a maximum of $2 million, which will make the total contract for $4 million. The project will be issued by letter agreement per individual scopes of services. This is a second year renewal of the project. It's a two-year project. Just some of the projects that are being worked on, and you see these projects come for construction: pump station man lift replacements, Lemay Pump Station 1 cooling tower replacement, pump station fall protection, Baden City Shed mitigation basins, and L51, L52 pump station odor control. Those will be the projects that KAI 360 will be inspecting for us. Any questions? Yeah, they're at various at treatment plants rather than have an individual construction management. We have a general services that covers that type of inspection. All the sewer work we do with our internal inspection forces, or the technical where you have mechanical, electrical, we acquire that construction management expertise to oversee the contractors. And they have the resources then that could go to these different sites and manage the project. Thank you. Next item is the River to Pear Channel rehabilitation. This action appropriates funds and authorizes staff to enter a design contract. We are seeking introduction and adoption of this project. This is the final ARPA project where we receive funding through the state of Missouri. I brought the other projects at the last meeting. This one was delayed a little bit. It's going to get us an additional $5,000 to make some repairs. Again, the ordinance authorized. What did I say? 5,000. Thank you.
It's $5 million.
Little bit of difference there. Authorize the staff to enter a contract with Wrights and Gens, provide design services for the River to Pear Channel rehabilitation. The project consists of design and repair, replacement of channel bottoms and side slopes at several locations along River to Pear Channel. And the cost for these projects, again, is $5 million. Got the wrong zeros there. There were two other proposals considered on this project. The total appropriation, $1 million for design, is equal to what was proposed in funding presented in the budget supplement. Again, we're requesting introduction and adoption on this project. MWB participation. This current project had no goals for professional services, but Wrights and Jens is anticipating about 45% participation with the named subcontractors, subconsultant. All right. Next item is the Gaslight Square Improvements Phase 2. This appropriates funds and authorizes staff to amend a contract, and this is a planned appropriation with Stantec Consulting Services, provide design services for the Gaslight Square Improvement Phase 2 project. This project consists of the design and preparation of construction documents for the city shed mitigation project as part of the consent decree. The purpose of this project is to alleviate basement backups and overland flooding and to provide a higher level of service in this combined sewer area. This appropriation is $1,500,000 and is supplemental to the pre-design effort completed last year. The appropriation for design services is equal to that presented in the budget supplement. Stantec is providing for approximately 26.45 participation, MWB participation, which is listed with the named sub-consultants. Questions? All right, the next two items are requesting permission for staff to proceed with condemnation efforts on 2 sanitary relief projects that have to be built in accordance with the consent decree. The first one was the Edmondson Sanitary Relief. This authorized staff to proceed with further condemnation efforts, including the filing of all necessary court pleadings and documents. We're obtaining additional 5 parcels of ground that we've been unable to reach agreement with the property owners. The project being constructed is approximately 3,200 lineal feet of 15 to 18-inch sanitary sewers and appurtenances. The purpose of this project is to alleviate wet weather backups and to relieve overcharged sanitary sewers. There were a total of 25 projects that need, 30 easements to be acquired. We've acquired 25 of them, leaving the 5 that we're requesting for condemnation. So now I'll briefly go through, Ashley will put up and you have in your packet, the displays for the project, for each individual property, and I'll kind of briefly go down the status of those. The first parcel is parcel 2, and parcel 3, as you can see, these are commercial properties. Parcel 2, they late in March, after some negotiations, they've hired an attorney, and their attorney is looking over the information from MSD. We've been unable to reach an agreement to this point. Parcel 3, the owner has a number of, if you look to the lower part of the parcel, there's a lot of storage of materials. The owner's not happy about having to move those materials, so we're working out a way that provides some temporary storage for that. Hopefully, if we can get that, we'll be able to get that one, but right now we have not been able to get that negotiated. The next sheet, parcel 13, on the east side of that. Both these properties here are rental properties owned by a brother and a sister. We've got basically the go-ahead from one of the property owners, the sister, and the brother is, we're trying to get him to get signed. It's a matter of getting the 2 owners together, getting them signed. We've been unable to do that. I think we have agreed to an offer, but we want to keep the project moving. And then the final parcel is parcel 23. Parcel 28 we've actually acquired. Parcel 23, this is a property not uncommon when we go out. We have a deceased owner and working with an attorney to determine who's able to sign the easement for us. But we want to continue moving in the direction. Again, on the sanitary relief projects, we come and request this permission when we've kind of reached where we've gotten all the easements that we can in order to keep the project on schedule per the consent decree. Any questions on that one? All right, the next one is the Woodson sanitary relief. Again, this ordinance authorizes staff to proceed with further condemnation efforts, including filing of all necessary court pleadings and documents on 7 parcels of ground in the city of Overland. This project will provide for the elimination of 2 constructed overflows and alleviate wet weather building backups in sanitary sewers and overcharged sanitary sewers. This particular project, there were initially 29 easements to acquire. 22 of these have been acquired, leaving 7. We continue to negotiate with the property owners. But again, I'll briefly discuss the issues we're having with these property owners. Ashley, we'll go ahead and move to the make sure I'm on the same one she is. So, parcel 6, this is one we've just been unable to reach any kind of owner, leaving door tags, sending certified letter, and we just have been unable to reach the owner, and they're refusing to answer any of our requests. Again, this area, like the last, has a lot of rental property, so getting tenants to get us the information or us being able to get a hold of owners sometimes can be difficult. Parcel 13, again, is rental property. We have reached the property owner, and we've met him on the site, but he has not responded with us with a counter offer at this time. Parcel 21, we have sent an offer letter. We have reached the landlord. It's being run by a management company. The management company is working with the owner of the property. We've left several voicemails, and they've stopped returning our calls. Parcel 23, we've made an offer. They've made a counter offer, and then we came back with a counter offer and have not heard back with them. That was late last month, so there's a possibility of getting this one acquired without condemnation, so we'll continue to work with that property owner. Parcel 41, this is a property owner. Again, we've mailed the offer packet. This is the one where she's meeting with her son, and now has got an attorney involved. And so once we meet with the attorney, we hope to get the signature, but right now there's just no movement on the easement. Parcel 82, this is a ownership where the owner has passed away, and we're working with the deceased children to try to get this easement passed. We do signed. We do think we will be able to get this easement signed. Again, it's a determination on who has the rights to sign the easement. And parcel 83 is just like a small sliver of property. This particular one, when the parcel 82 was sold, the owner who owns parcel 83 did not realize he did not sell both pieces of property. So he did not realize he actually still owned the sliver of property. So we hopefully be able to get him to sign, and then he can work out selling the remainder of the piece of property there. Any questions? All right, final 2 items are both surplus properties that require resolution from the board to declare them surplus to allow the district to either sale or provide that property for public use. First property is at 3532 Marshall Road. The district has identified the property at 3532 Marshall Road is no longer necessary or useful of district's operation and therefore should be declared surplus. This property is not being used by the district and has no plan to use the property in the future. So the district is requesting to declare this surplus property and it will not interfere with the district's existing or reasonably anticipated public uses. If you look at the document on this particular project, you will see it actually shows a house there. That house is no longer there. The house was over the top of the sewer. The sewer had collapsed. So in order to make the sewer repair, not having any room to relocate it, the district purchased the property, repaired the sewer, and now it's a vacant lot that we do have a sewer going through that, which we have an easement on, which would prevent anybody from building on that. But now it's a vacant lot, and there is some interest from the adjacent property owners that would be able to maintain that property. Next one is again surplus property located adjacent to 2751 Queen Street and also adjacent to the River to Pear. The district has identified a section of real property adjacent to 2751 Queen in the city of St. Louis that is no longer necessary or useful for district operations, and therefore we request to declare surplus property. Property is not being used by the district. The district has no plans to use the property, and declaring the property as surplus will not interfere with the district's existing or reasonable anticipated public uses. You look at the document here, it's a wedge of a piece of property. To the right of the arrow is actually River to Pear right of way, and you see a number of homes, and there's a sliver corner that's actually owned by MSD. It does have a sewer located in it, so the property would have complete easements covering the sewers, but then there is some interest in utilizing that property as adjacent to some of the properties there. We wouldn't have to maintain it at that point. Okay. That is all the board agenda items I have at this time.
Thank you, Rich. And it looks like we have other business.
Yes. The district, as you may be aware, there's been some members of the public that have showed up at a couple of board meetings with regard to some flooding last summer in the Ellendale area. And it's in an area where the district has future plans for construction. We've got a tunnel that's going to be under River to Pear, and there's going to be some work in this area. So we had discussions with the city of St. Louis and the property owners. So the determination was to go ahead and purchase these properties that flooded at this time for our future use. One of the properties that I think the gentleman attended the board meeting twice, we had already made, and actually we've acquired that property. He has till June to be out of the property. We'll demolish that building. The other 4 appraisals for the other 4 properties have been completed. We'll get those appraisal reports within the next 3 to 4 weeks. Once appraisals, then we'll make offers. Right now, we anticipate it'll probably be early summer by the time we close on those properties. So that's there was a request to provide kind of how things were going out there on those projects. Are there any questions? Just wanted to provide an update.
Thank you for the update. The next tentative meeting date is May 30th, 2023. Can I get a motion for adjournment?
So moved. Second.
Sounds good. We'll call to order the 290th meeting of the Finance Committee. Get a roll call, please.
Yep, the record will note that all trustees are in attendance with Trustee Fair and Evans online.
Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, the next item is the district rate model support and feasibility study.
Good morning, trustees. I actually have items 3 through 8 on the agenda, so I'll continue with those items and then turn it over to Tim for the last 2 items. So the first item that I'll cover again is a proposal to exercise the first of 4 option years for a contract with Raftellus Rate Consultants. Raftellus provides rate modeling support and preparation of feasibility studies that we use when we have to issue bonds. And as applicable, we also use them for public communications relating to the stormwater initiatives. We issued a bid for this contract back in 2022. It was awarded to Raftellus, and so again, this request is to exercise the first of 4 option years. Are there any questions that I can answer? Okay, thank you. Okay, hearing none, I will move to the next agenda item, which is the quarterly financial status report. So again, this report will cover through March of 2023. So I'll start in the upper right-hand corner with the FY23 user charge forecast. That graph depicts that our budget variance is currently $5.2 million favorable. Our residential revenues are expected to be approximately $4 million above what we budgeted, and our commercial revenues are anticipated to be approximately $1.2 million more than what we budgeted. Moving to the next graph in the top left-hand corner of the chart, we'll cover our budget status forecast. Overall, we're projected to be in a favorable position by approximately $22.1 million. Our debt service expenditures are anticipated to be about $1.1 million below budget. Our operating budget is forecasted to be $5.4 million below budget, and our capital budget is projected to be approximately $15.7 million below budget at this time. The next chart, the FY23 debt coverage ratio forecast. This chart depicts that we are meeting our debt service coverage ratios that are in our bond covenants, and we're also exceeding the targets that we set. And then finally, the last chart depicts our total delinquencies and our average collection period. We have a goal of 45 days for the average collection period. We're at approximately 53 days, slightly down from 54 that I reported during the last quarter. Our total delinquent balance since the inception of MSD back in the 1950s is right at $105 million. The bulk of that, $77 million, relates to delinquent user charges, and the remaining $28 million pertains to miscellaneous collection charges. We write off, periodically we write off some of the balances, but we track those balances that are still deemed to be collectible. Not all of it goes back to the 50s, obviously. We do have accounts that are written off. But what this is depicting are those balances that are still active and in a collectible status. We do, what we do is all of our balances or our accounts go through, so all of our account balances go through our normal collection processes. So that means we send out notices and then we turn them over to collection agencies and law firms. And so at the end of the process with the law firms, we have discussions with them to determine what they deem to be collectible. And oftentimes it's, if we can't find assets, we'll go ahead and write that balance off, but we put it in a holding status in case that the status changes with that particular customer and we can find assets at a later date.
Keep this on perpetually, or?
Well, it's not perpetual. We keep it on our books to the extent that it's still collectible. Once we determine that it's uncollectible, we take it off of our books, but we put it in another portfolio where we're watching to see if that condition changes with that customer, and it might be uncollectible today, but in a couple of years, it could change, and then it's back in a collectible status.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Quickly, Mr. G, while it's in that nether status, for lack of a better word, where you don't think it's collectible, but you're watching it, to the user, it still looks like it's in a collectible status. Is that, or to the customer?
Correct. The one thing that we do is we put liens on the properties that are associated with any delinquent account. And so that lien stays until it's satisfied.
And it's reflected in the billing.
Well, we don't actually bill. Once it goes into an uncollectible status, they're not continuing to get bills. Because oftentimes you can't locate the property owner, or you know that they're not going to pay, so you're really just wasting money to constantly send bills. They've gotten several notices at that point, and also they are notified that there's a lien on the property. So that lien is really kind of our, I don't want to say our last resort, but when we place that lien on the property, it does give us some assurances that when that property is transferred, we typically
I understand
collect.
the lien and why you're doing it, and it needs to be, again. But I guess I've had issues raised where clients are getting bills that are getting on their bill payments that are years old, and they think they had relief from it. They get a $7,000 bill, which reflects the late charges, if you will, and the current billing, and the arrears is going up faster than they can pay it.
Normally, when that occurs, it's because that property has been transferred through like a quitclaim deed,
Okay.
and the new owner of that property does not get any kind of title search done. And so when we get notice that that property has changed hands, then that balance goes to
Goes
that
to
new
the new owner.
Correct.
How long does it stay forever? I'm
don't-
assuming it goes through the same process.
Correct. It goes through that same collection process. And that's typically when you're going to hear from that customer is when they didn't do a title search, then they will call us and say, we had no idea that there was a huge amount owed for this property.
But what if they did? And I don't want to portray that. Maybe we can talk offline.
Sure, be glad to talk to you.
Specific.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Okay, so the next item is our quarterly adjustment review committee report. So this is required by our wastewater ordinance, so I report to the board on a quarterly basis of any adjustments over $5,000 that we have done. So I'll start with the grand total. So during the quarter, we had 41 adjustments, which total a credit to customer accounts of approximately $1.1 million. The bulk of those adjustments are found in the top portion of the report under the total adjustments section. So we had 37 adjustments, which totaled about $1 million. Most of those are water agency adjustments. We had 22 of those at approximately $681,000. Those again are typically misreads of water meters that we get or usage adjustments that we get from the water utility. So we have to make those adjustments to the customer's accounts. And sometimes those can go back several years. If they find, for instance, a meter that's been malfunctioning for a number of years, we have to go back and adjust that customer's account. There were 7 water off adjustments that were made totaling $206,000. Those are customer accounts where the water has been turned off, and typically it takes, like if it's the city of St. Louis, for instance, if it's a residential account, those accounts are unmetered. And so they can bill that customer. We've seen a customer being billed for a number of years before they will actually issue a water off adjustment. And so we have to go back and adjust our billings as well. And then finally, in the last section, in the write-off section, we had 4 properties that were transferred to the Land Bank Authority, and we wrote off those accounts totaling $74,000. The last section, which is the other section, are actually billings to those entities, to Bridgestone Landfill and Missouri American Water. Those billings totaled $650,900. Are there any questions regarding this report that I can answer? Okay, thank you. So moving on, we presented our preliminary budget to the committee back in, I believe it was March, and then had a subsequent discussion with you in April presentation. So what I'm here today to present are changes to that preliminary budget. So if you can move to the next slide, Stephanie. So this slide shows that the district is now proposing a balanced budget, as we did previously, as directed by charter, which totals $947.8 million of revenues and expenditures. The components of each will be discussed in more detail as we move through today's presentation. And I'm sorry, that balanced budget should be, it's now $956.3 million. The $947.8 was the previous amount that we discussed with the board. So in terms of what changed, our taxes increased by $2.5 million. We got additional assessment data. And so our estimate of the tax receipts went up $2.5 million. Also, our net investment and other income decreased by about $100,000. Looking at the operating expenses, we had a net increase of $3.4 million. The bulk of that related to pension contributions in our defined benefit plan. Those increased by $3.1 million. We received an actuary report since the time that I presented the preliminary budget to you, and that actuary report reflected an increase in pension expenses that we would need to pay over the next fiscal year. So our net increase is $5.2 million in both the operating and the revenue items. So moving on to the next slide. Okay, so this slide depicts the changes between the preliminary budget revenues and the total expense budgets. Again, as you can see, there's a total change there of approximately $8.6 million for both the revenues and for both expenses. I've already covered the revenue items, so I won't go over those again. I will cover the changes to the capital program here in just a moment. So Stephanie, if you'll go to the next slide. Okay, go ahead and go to the next one. Okay, so our final budget supplement included a net increase of 4 new projects from what was noted in the preliminary budget. And these program changes resulted in a net increase of $26.2 million in total new project budgeting. This was largely offset by a $21 million reduction in the carryover list as a major treatment plant project at Bissell, our fine screens project, was able to proceed. And so we bid that in FY23 and it came out of the 24 preliminary budget. The changes in the program between the final and the preliminary budgets represent our normal scheduling and cost estimating changes that occur as projects progress through the design and the easement acquisition process. As I mentioned, there's 1 fewer continued project. There were no wastewater or stormwater continued projects that were added. Overall, the capital budget for fiscal year '24 increased by approximately $5.2 million from the preliminary budget that was presented to the board on April the 4th. Are there any changes about the capital program, or any questions, I'm sorry, about the changes to the capital program? Okay, if you'll move to the next slide. So in terms of our schedule, we are going to request that the board adopt or we're going to introduce the budget at the May 11th board meeting. After that board meeting, we'll have a public hearing primarily related to our taxes. There's a finding of facts committee that we will ask to consider the tax proposal and to make a recommendation to the board as to if those taxes are appropriate for the funding of our stormwater program. And so again, that public hearing is scheduled for 6 p.m. Next week. In June, if the board approves the preliminary budget, we'll ask for adoption at the June 8th meeting. So, any questions regarding the changes to the preliminary budget? Okay, hearing none. So I will move on to the next item, which is a budget ordinance that will be introduced at the May meeting again. So this ordinance will be introduced on May the 11th. It will authorize the district to expend funds during FY24 for both wastewater and stormwater operations. The requested appropriations at this point, at this time, total $389.6 million, and they're listed by fund at the bottom of the detail page that you should have in your packet. And they match the amount of the operating budget and the debt service amounts that I previously discussed in the presentation. As you all are aware, with respect to capital appropriations, we bring those to the board each month when appropriations are requested to fund those capital projects. So they're not in the budget ordinance at this time. Are there any questions regarding the budget ordinance? Okay, so the last item that I have is our tax levies and our tax ordinance. So Stephanie, okay, you have it up. So the tax ordinance will be introduced next week as well. The ordinance complies with the district's charter and it is part of our annual budgeting process. So the board will be requested to approve the tax rates reflected in the table. So you should have a table on the second page of that document that's before you. And again, we'll ask our finding of facts committee that Trustee Fair will chair, and I believe that Trustee Evans and Wabi are on the committee, and Trustee Nicholson is serving as an alternate. So the committee will be requested at the conclusion of the public hearing to determine the amount of taxes to be levied by the district. Are there any questions regarding the tax ordinance? Okay, those are all the items that I have. I will now turn it over to Tim.
All right, thank you, Marion. Okay, I have two items. The first one is the monthly operating fund portfolio, everybody's favorite monthly report, not to be confused with Marion's quarterly report earlier, which is everyone's favorite quarterly report. This is the four quadrant report that we look at. I'm going to start in the upper left. Portfolio is about $726 million. That's really no material change from last month, maybe down about $2 million. We'll see a significant change next month because we had about $65 million of debt service payments that went out yesterday. So it's going to be much lower at the end of May than it was at the end of April. From a yield to maturity and weighted average standpoint, we have some minor changes. Yield to maturity is only up about 5 basis points. We are continuing to invest at higher rates than we had in the past, so we see some small changes here. About the $65 million that matured that went to the debt payments was about 1.4%, so we'll see an increase just because we had some, excuse me, lower interest debt drop off. I'm sorry, investments drop off. The benchmark is roughly flat to where it was last month. There was actually a lot of movement within the month, but the benchmark ended April about the same place it ended March. Our weighted average maturity went down a little bit. That's because we had a lot of very short-term investments maturing to hit the debt service payments we had yesterday. Benchmark stayed flat. You can see in the fund summary in the bottom, we really have small balances in most of our accounts other than the operations, which is kind of a catch-all for a lot of different things. But we've about used up our debt project funds. Our debt reserve funds continue to shrink. We used to have to create reserve funds every time we issued bonds. We haven't done that since 2014. And as we refunded bonds, we've been able to release those reserves to pay for projects. So I'm happy to see that continue to go down.
Excuse me, Tim, you said you don't have to fund a debt service reserve any longer?
So the last time we issued bonds that had a debt service reserve was 2013. And we actually just refunded those bonds yesterday. So this number is going to go down about 4 million because of that. We have some 2010 bonds outstanding that still have a reserve. Those are structured differently, and so we're not currently able to refinance those. And then there's a little bit of 2012 maturities, but our new bonds do not have debt service reserves, and that's in part because of our high credit quality and the amount of liquidity that we keep, which actually plays into our credit quality. So it's kind of a market change, but also our credit quality is factored into that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So anyway, those are the pieces that get to the 726 million portfolio. Maturity distribution, you see the difference between our portfolio and the benchmark. We always keep our portfolio shorter because we have project needs. And that's why we have a lot in that 0 to 1 years, while the benchmark's really concentrated in the 1 to 3 years. And I'll end in the upper right with the sector allocation. We are within policy limits on our overall sector allocations. Although I do want to self-report, we do have a policy violation within the commercial paper, and that is a concentration limit. So we don't report the concentrations usually in this report, but our policy, for risk mitigation reasons, we don't want to have more than 5% of the portfolio in just one issuer. We had a series of events over this last week, most of it related to a large amount of debt maturing, mostly to cover the large debt service payment. Investments maturing to cover the debt service payment. We had about 100 million maturing. And we also happen to be in a transition period. So our assistant secretary treasurer who managed the investments daily left. We're transitioning to getting U.S. Bank to help with the investment management. We're waiting for one signature on them. We thought we'd have that done last week. It'll be done, it looks like, today. So we'll be able to correct this pretty quickly. And then also we transitioned to or upgraded our ERP system, so we haven't been issuing checks for a few weeks. And so we have a large backlog in payments that need to go out but haven't been going out. So we've built up cash a little bit faster than usual. So we have more cash than expected. So we've relied on a liquid CP product that we move cash to so that it earns some kind of investment instead of just sitting in the bank account. We've got more in that account than we should have. So we'll get that corrected this week, but I just wanted to let you know about that. Alternatively, we could not invest that, have the bank put up more collateral, but we wouldn't be earning anything on that money, and I'd prefer to earn the interest. So short term, unless you scream at me to fix it right now, for a couple of days, we're just going to have an over allocation to U.S. Bank commercial paper, which is very safe. It's short term. We're just talking a couple of days, so the risk there is extremely, extremely, extremely low. But I wanted to make you aware of that. Any questions on the operating portfolio? All right, with that, I've just got one more item. There's not a handout. This is just going to be, I think, a short discussion. It is time to do our pension consultant RFP. We do this at least every 5 years. Historically, we've used what's called a traditional consultant model. So you've heard Aon come on quarterly to kind of give an update on performance. I work with them regularly. They monitor performance for us. They monitor our managers' compliance with our investment policy. They propose updates to investment policy. They help us with any manager search or due diligence if we want to make a management change, asset allocation recommendations, that sort of thing. And that's a fine model. We've used that for a long time. Before Aon, we used Pavilion. Before Aon, it was NEPC for a long time here. Most I would say probably most pension funds use a model like that. Although there is growth in what's called the OCIO model, and that stands for Outsourced Chief Investment Officer. Outsourced Chief Investment Officer acts similarly in all those ways that I mentioned. They do the same thing. They are a co-fiduciary with the board. But one thing they can do differently is they also are empowered to actually execute strategies, execute management changes, execute asset allocation changes within parameters defined by the board. This is something that we talked about with the previous board, but we had a couple of members who were uncomfortable because they felt like they were, giving up some fiduciary responsibility. I don't believe that's really the case. You share fiduciary responsibility with the OCIO. I'm not asking for a change in the model at this point, but since it's time to go with the RFP, what I would like to do is to get responses from firms that can provide either or both models, so that we can evaluate the responses and make a decision going forward. We could continue to stick with the traditional method, or if you choose, we could go with the OCIO approach. What I expect is that we could get some lower fees with the OCIO model. The concerns that I would have is that often OCIO managers like to use their own fund. That's one way it stays cheaper. So let's say like a BlackRock or even an Aon who can do this as well, likes to use their own funds. They can move in and out. Sometimes there's transparency or conflict of interest questions about that. But by at least allowing the responses is something that we can evaluate and talk to them about. So if there's concerns about that, we won't allow the OCIO responses, but I would like to at least allow them to respond so we can evaluate the proposals. Are there concerns or questions about that? Okay, not hearing any, I am going to plan on issuing an RFP that will allow for responses for both types. If if you think about it and have any concerns, please do reach out, and then we'll bring those responses to you later for further discussion and education for all of us. And that is all that I have for the finance meeting. Thank you.
Okay, so next tentative meeting date is May 30th. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Trustee Wilson, we're ready to start.
Yay. Yeah, good morning. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Stakeholder Relations Committee meeting, May 2023. Can I get a roll call, please?
Yes, we'll note that all trustees are in attendance, including trustees Fair and Evans who are online.
Okay, I have no comments. I'll entertain a motion for approval of the March committee meeting minutes. April committee meeting minutes, I'm sorry.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, with no objection, meeting minutes are approved. First discussion item, Ms. Coleman.
So I'm here in place of Tracy Coleman to discuss two things. One is the resolution. This is a correction to a finding that was done in an audit recently. It's a resolution number 3837. This is to authorize MSD to enter a one-year agreement with Cigna to provide medical coverage to the employees. This resolution is year 2 of 2-year option years commencing from January 1, 23 with Cigna Healthcare.
You know, what are you talking?
That's the
On
last
the
one.
back.
Oh, it's the last.
This is the last document.
Okay.
Sorry.
So he's on the last item in your
Last
packet.
Because that was the first on the.
Any questions from anybody?
So now that I have that out of the way, I'd like to get into the spreadsheet for the insurance. So this might be a little easier to look at than the detail sheets one by one. So I'll be discussing the liability insurance for the district. I'll start with ordinance number 16125. This is a property and boiler insurance with FM Global. It covers physical damages, loss to buildings and contents owned by MSD listed on our policy, as well as a business income and extra expense losses as a consequence of damage. It excludes flood, nuclear attack, war, and pollution. It covers up to $1 billion per occurrence with a $250,000 deductible. Next up, I have the ordinance number 16126. This is an access flood and earthquake insurance with FM Global. It covers physical damage, loss to building and contents caused by flood listed in our policy. It covers up to $30 million with a $500,000 deductible. Both of these policies had us increase. But we just received last night a notice that we will be credited $388,000 from FM Global, which brings us to $226,612 in increase for both of those policies combined through FM Global. Notice came in last night, so I didn't have time to update the spreadsheet. Next up, we have combined liability ordinance number 16127. This is a 3-layer policy. First layer is general liability with MOPERM. It covers liability claims, bodily injuries, and property damage made against MSD, but only if MSD is found to be negligent in causing third-party damages. It excludes nuclear attack, war, pollution, intentional, and criminal acts. It covers up to $2 million per occurrence with a $100,000 deductible with a slight increase this year. Layer number 2, management employee benefits administration liability also with MOPERM. It would cover claims suits made against MSD board members and employees due to wrongful acts, errors, and omissions. It excludes nuclear attack, war, pollution, intentional, and criminal acts. Covers up to $2 million with a $100,000 retention. And the price on that one stay the same. Layer 3, employment practices liability, also with MOPERM. It would cover claims suits made against MSD, board members, and employees due to employment practices such as wrongful termination, discrimination, sexual abuse, harassment. It excludes nuclear attacks, war, pollution, intentional, and criminal acts. Covers up to $2 million with $100,000 retention. Also, price stay the same. Next up, ordinance number 16128, auto liability with Phoenix Travelers. It would cover liability claims, bodily injuries, and property damage made against MSD due to negligent use of their vehicles, and it covers 392 power units. It excludes nuclear attack, war, pollution, intentional criminal acts, and it covers up to $2 million per accident with a different variety of deductibles depending on the accident. Next up, ordinance number 16129, public official access liability. This is with ACE American Insurance Company. It covers differences in conditions from primary liability policy. It provides defense coverage for wage and hour actions and inverse condemnation actions for board members and employees. This covers up to $2 million per occurrence with $100,000 retention. Next up, ordinance number 16130, access liability first layer with Princeton Access and Surplus Lines Insurance. It provides additional $5 million access liability coverage following underlying policies. It excludes sexual abuse, nuclear attack, war, pollution, intentional criminal acts, and it covers up to $5 million per occurrence. Next up, ordinance number 16131. Access liability second layer. This is with Gemini Insurance Company. It provides an additional $5 million limit access of following the underlying policies. It excludes sexual abuse, nuclear attack, war, pollution, intentional criminal acts, and it also covers up to $5 million per occurrence. Ordinance number 16132. Access liability third layer. This is with Homesite Insurance Company. It provides an additional $5 million limit access of the following other policies. It excludes sexual abuse, nuclear attack, war, pollution, intentional and criminal acts. It also covers up to $5 million per occurrence. Next up, ordinance number 16133, cyber risk. This is with Travelers. It provides security and privacy liability, regulatory actions, sublimit, event management coverage, and cyber extortion. Covers up to $5 million per occurrence with the $100,000 retention. And this actually went down, and that's to good loss history with cybersecurity. Ordinance number 16134, contractors pollution liability, and this is with AIG Specialty Insurance Company. It covers losses and cleanup costs due to claims made against MSD caused by pollution conditions as a result of MSD contractor. It covers up to $3 million per pollution with $25,000 deductible, and had a slight decrease in price. Ordinance number 16135, contractors equipment, inland marine, and this is with Markel American Insurance Company. Provides $250,000 per piece of equipment, and we have $4.4 million worth of equipment, and the deductible is $2,500 and $1,000 for vehicles under $10,000 or equipment under $10,000. Next up, I have ordinance number 16136, commercial crime. This is with Travelers Casualty and Travelers Casualty. This covers financial losses due to employee dishonesty, stealing of money funds, outside theft, robbery of MSD money, securities, and checks. It excludes nuclear attacks, war, pollution. It covers up to $10 million per occurrence with a $50,000 deductible. It also had a slight decrease in price. If you turn to the next page or back page of that spreadsheet, we have ordinance number 16137, fiduciary liability with Federal Insurance Company. It covers financial losses due to mishandling of any employee benefit plan. It covers up to $15 million per occurrence with the $50,000 deductible. Next up, second layer, ordinance number 16138, fiduciary liability, second layer. This is also with Travelers. It would cover financial losses due to mishandling of any employee benefits, also up to $10 million with the $50,000 deductible. Next up, ordinance number 16139. This is a state requirement policy, access workers' compensation. It covers all losses and expenses for MSD employees while injured on the job for MSD. It is also a state requirement. Injuries, it excludes injuries which occur outside of the scope of employment with MSD. It covers up to $2 million with a retention of $500,000 per occurrence. Ordinance number 16140. This is with Missouri Petroleum Storage Tank. This is for Missouri Petroleum Storage Tank insurance with Missouri Petroleum Storage Tank Fund. It covers cleanup costs caused by the release of petroleum from covered storage tanks at the district. It covers all the cleanup costs, and it covers up to $2,000. Ordinance number 16141. This is a NFIP National Flood Insurance Program, and this is with Selective. It covers physical damages, physical damage loss to buildings and contents caused by a flood. It covers 36 of our buildings. Maximum policy limit is $500,000. Deductibles are $1,000 to $50,000, depending on the incident. The last one, ordinance number 16142, major facility pollution liability with Iron Shore Specialty Insurance Company, and it covers losses and cleanup costs due to claims made against MSD caused by pollution conditions at the major treatment plant or lagoon. It excludes nuclear attacks, wars, intentional and criminal acts, covers up to $10 million with $500,000 deductible per occurrence. And that's the last ordinance for insurance policies. Any questions?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, I'll need a motion to go into closed session to discuss personnel actions under section 610.21, subparagraph 3. Can I get a motion, please?
So move.
Second.
All right, we'll do a roll call vote. Trustee Wabi?
Aye.
Trustee Watson?
Yes.
Trustee Evans?
Yes.
Trustee Nicholasison?
Yes.
Trustee Wilson?
Yes.
Trustee Fair?
Yes.
All right, we're in closed session.
Trustee Wilson?
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to come out of closed session.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. If there's does anyone have anything for the body, for the good of the body? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
With no objection, meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Has this
Thank
been
you.
the pleasure of your life?
Have a good day, guys.
All right.